So Andrew Tate is fake. Now let's get into that. Hey guys, what's up? I'm back with another random conspiracy theory video. Or the first. No, it's not the first. It's like the second by now. Anyway, what I'm going to talk about today is Andrew Tate. And I'm going to try not to get age restricted, but I'm probably going to get this video flagged. Just because I'm talking about Andrew Tate. So today, I'm going to talk about Andrew Tate. Wait a minute. I can't do this with glasses because, you know, nothing must hinder a man. Actually, I'm gonna put my glasses back on because that flash is really bright and my glasses are tinted to prevent that. So, anyway, Andrew Tate. Who is Andrew Tate? What happened? Where did he come from? Well, not many people know a lot about, details about his actual life. He's told stories about a lot of stuff, but for the most part, he's a kickboxer or MMA fighter, whichever one you want to consider. He's like one of those world-class fighters, and he's like really good at it. He came out of nowhere and like he made his money doing fighting, and then he made his money running webcam businesses and a bunch of other businesses. But now all of a sudden he's in everything on YouTube, everything on the media. He's even in the news now, and he got banned from everything all over the world. Like he's like Alex Jones 2.0. Like I wouldn't say a more buff version of Alex Jones, because I've seen that guy without a shirt on in a video and he is jacked too. So, well, at least he's a better fighter than Alex Jones, so let's put it that way. First time I heard about Andrew Tate was like a year, maybe 2 years ago. I saw a video where they were saying he's like a sex offender and he's trafficking women, which I was like, no, not really. I mean, I saw his because they were like, oh, he's making this retreat from men to be bosses, and then they're like, oh, he's in trouble for sex trafficking and all this stuff, and I was like, that doesn't make sense, because they're saying he's trafficking these women that are sex scam workers that are obviously not high. Like, they're not high. They're making money and they're bragging about the money they're making, but yet so he's trafficking them and using them all to make this money. But it's like, okay, that seems realistic. And like when that happened, I thought, well, Andrew Tate is either the most maniacal and genius bad guy I've ever seen, or these girls are the dumbest girls I've ever heard of on the entire planet. Or it's not true, because this was in the middle of Me Too. So you think like in the middle of Me Too, one guy is getting a whole bunch of women to do sex work and he's abusing them and no one's like saying anything? None of these girls are smart enough to say anything? I don't think so. But more importantly, why I didn't believe that is because these girls are working on camera and every single one of them has like guys that like pay them thousands of dollars a week, some of them, to talk to them. Do you not think a guy obsessed enough to pay somebody thousands of dollars a week would not notice if the girl all of a sudden is sad or has a black eye or something all of a sudden? Yeah, they would notice. And seeing that none of these guys notice, it's kind of hard to think, well, he's been beating and abusing these girls for like a year. And I was like, yeah, that doesn't make sense, because like all the stuff you're saying requires somebody on like a maniacal, world-dominating, take over the entire planet level, or it's not true, or the girls are like 1 IQ. And I don't believe the girls are 1 IQ, and I don't believe he's that smart. So I was just like, you know, it sounds like clickbait, just sounds like random drama for the news. And then he disappeared for a while, but now he's back all of a sudden, and he's everywhere. All these advice that he's giving to all these people, and it's just like taking over the web, especially the younger generation, especially guys that are like in their teenagers. They're all following him and they're like acting like him, and like people are like, he's so toxic, he's the worst guy ever, he's the worst influence. And I'm just like, oh, he's not a great influence, but at the same time, who online is? Like, if you look to me for influence and advice to be like the best person in the world, no, because like most of what you see of me is insane. Like, it's just insane. Like, I have the weirdest personality ever. Don't look to like random people online for you're like to be like you're the greatest guy ever. I'm gonna emulate everything you say, but at the same time, like a lot of what he says, it's not really all that big of a deal. Like, it's not. Like, one of the things he got a lot of hate for was saying, was his like view on like women, and like I listened to what he said and I'm like, well, if you're a girl, and you think this is really hateful and you would never want to be with a guy like that, then you have a problem. He literally says in the interview that he thinks women are supposed to be protected above all else. Like, he's like, in the night, if somebody breaks into the house, you're not getting up. I'm getting up to go risk my life to protect you. And if you think that's bad, then you have a problem. I was like, that's not a bad thing. Like, saying you're gonna get up in the middle of the night to protect your girlfriend, your wife, or whatever it is that you're with your life, and you're laying everything down for her to be happy and to make sure she's safe no matter what. It's not a big deal, especially when the only thing he's like done, the only thing I want is for you to make me breakfast in the morning. And I was like, you know, it's kind of a fair trade. Like, to be honest, like, that's a fair trade. Like, breakfast keep you safe, give you everything you need to live. You don't have a worry in the world. Like, that's kind of a fair trade. Like, to be honest, that's basically a fair trade. They're like, oh, that's sexist and misogynist. I'm like, but it's only sexist and misogynist if he's mistreating you. And also if he's going, well, you can't do nothing else but whatever I say. And it's like, well, apparently he's like, the girls need to go out and have fun with each other. I'm like, okay, that seems kind of not so sexist when you tell people, oh, go out, have fun. Don't worry about it. I'll pay for everything you want. It's like, wait, so what is he doing that's so bad now? He's telling them to go enjoy their life when he's not around. He's gonna foot the bill for everything they want. All this stuff, and it's like, oh, it's just because he's mean about it. Which, not really a big deal. But anyway, enough about what his views are and stuff like that. Because I honestly think his views are pretty normal. I've heard a lot of people say the exact same things he said. They're just nice about it, and he's not. And so a lot of people are hating on him for that. And like, I noticed like a lot of people also hating on him alongside like other people that are very big and very into mental health stuff. Like, I saw one person put him and Jordan Peterson in the same category, and I'm like, first of all, Jordan Peterson is a psychologist, and he's not the same as Andrew Tate, because I'm sure he doesn't agree with quite a lot of what Andrew Tate says or how he says it, but he would agree with get yourself together and be the best person you can, which is kind of what Tate says all the time. But they also said they're both horrible people and they don't know what they're talking about, and I was like, well, you don't know what you're talking about, because you just said a clinical psychologist that's been doing this for 30 plus years doesn't know anything, even though you're like 20 years old. So a person that's been in the psychology field longer than you've been alive doesn't know anything about psychology and doesn't know anything about how people work. Sure, that's perfect, but that's not what I'm talking about today. I got sidetracked. Anyway, back to the main point of this video. Andrew Tate is fake. Yeah, I said it. It's not a real person. He's fake. How did I come to this conclusion? Well, watch a lot of his videos. Like, just watch the shorts and watch the clips, and like, don't look at the video. Watch them, especially with him and his brother, or watch some of his stuff and then watch some of his brother's clips, and don't look at the videos. And you will notice you can't tell which one is which. Like, the funny thing was how I figured this out is I was like in the car and like I was scrolling to the YouTube shorts while I was waiting for my wife, and I wasn't looking at the shorts. I was doing something else also, and like I heard him say something and I was like, oh, it's Andrew Tate, and then I looked up. And it's not. It's his brother. It's the one with the actual hair. So that's the only way I tell them apart. One has hair, one doesn't. And then a couple of videos later, same person is talking like, oh, I guess his brother's getting famous now. Nope, it was Tate that time. And then I noticed something when they were both in a podcast that I thought was kind of peculiar. One's talking and the other one's not talking, which is fine. That's how podcasts should work. But then his brother stops and then he goes and interrupts him, which is weird because you would think they're interrupting and talking over each other, but they're not. Every time one stops, the other one starts to talk like he's interrupted, and then they go back. Because what actually happened was he was saying something, he stopped talking, and then Andrew interrupted and said, oh, well, this, and then he was like, you know what, never mind, you go and finish what you were saying, and he stopped talking. And then his brother started talking again. I'm like, why did you just say, never mind, you interrupted him? You didn't interrupt. You actually started talking after you stopped talking. And this happens a lot in their interviews if you pay attention. So it's like they're technically probably the same person, and one's just putting on an act. Like, they're the same person, it's just an act versus not an act, so that he can get views. So what I think is happening is his brother is real and Andrew Tate is not. Andrew Tate is just like a made up person, and every time they're in an interview, why they're always like, they're never in interviews together really, and why like it's always back and forth, but they never interrupt each other, because it's kind of hard to talk over yourself. Just saying, it's hard to talk over yourself. That's just one theory. I mean, that theory could be wrong, and there could be a whole bunch of other stuff going on with that. But the main thing that's gonna make you see that it's all fake, is because he just came out of nowhere. Like, he came out of nowhere faster than the Catch Me Outside. One day, I never heard of him. Well, I heard of him, but it was like back in my mind. And the next day, every other YouTube short is this guy, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, he's not even on any of my YouTube videos, but every YouTube short is just Andrew Tate, Andrew Tate, Andrew Tate. I'm like, what the hell just happened? So what happened? Yeah, he's fake because he was made up in order to do a social experiment, in a sense. All of a sudden, all this stuff seems to happen in a way that doesn't make any sense. And it also explains his ban, but like, let's cover the first part first. Like, he came out of nowhere in such a like dramatic way. All of a sudden, he's on every podcast. All of a sudden, he has clips of him talking everywhere. All of a sudden, all his quotes are everywhere, all over social media, everywhere, everything. It's just Andrew Tate fever, Andrew Tate mania. Why? How is all this possible so quickly? Because it's fake. No normal person can put out that much work in such a short time. Come on, it's like, it's not even realistic. Like, even if he were like, well, he probably has editors and stuff. Okay, he has an editor, but he's putting out literally more than 24 hours of content per day. So if you looked at it when he first came out, he was putting out like 50 hours worth of random stuff every single day. And I'm like, 50 hours worth of stuff in one day. One day is only 24 hours long. You can only do that if you're in two places at once, or you're just not real, and they could just generate everything you need at the snap of a finger, because he's not real. Probably have multiple voice actors, or his voice is CGI and they're just making up. But I think it just has multiple voice actors doing his voices. They just feeding them scripts, and then they're just dubbing the voices over like clips of him talking. And all he's doing is just making clips of talking in different scenarios. He's not even saying anything. They're just dubbing over everything, so he can sit there and do 20-minute clip of him doing random different things, and then they can turn that into like 100 hours worth of stuff, because they just reuse clips, clip it together, CGI. They have like 5 editors. Boom, boom, boom. They're done. It's kind of like making a Marvel movie. You don't know what's real, you don't know what's fake, and that's how it is. Like, he just has tons of stuff. You don't know how it's all possible that he's made so much stuff. And then the other part that's really, really, really puts it in onto why I think he's a fake, why I think he's like completely made up, is like how all of a sudden he like just hit the right exact spot in every single algorithm on everything on the planet. Not just one thing, everything. And these things don't use the same algorithms. Like, he hit Twitter, he hit Facebook, he hit TikTok, he hit YouTube, and he didn't do it one day after. No, he did them all at the exact same time. Like, all of a sudden everything blew up worldwide with Andrew Tate. All social media, all video platforms, all of them blew up with Andrew Tate. He hit their algorithms all at the same time, which is weird because it's kind of hard to hit the algorithm for everything at the same time. For instance, I do YouTube videos on YouTube and I do videos on BitChute. My YouTube videos will get 200 views. That same video, same tag, same everything on BitChute will get 10. But then I've done videos on BitChute that gets like 1,000 views, and that same video on YouTube, exactly the same, gets like 1 view, which is weird because all the information comes from YouTube, because I usually publish on YouTube first and then move it over to BitChute, and I copy all the information over there. And a lot of times when I was doing it earlier, well, like a year ago, I would put more effort into publicizing my BitChute, so they would get more publicity than my YouTube. So it would make sense for a YouTube video to get 300 views and then a BitChute video, the same exact video, to get 10. Why? Because the algorithm for YouTube liked that one video I made, whereas the algorithm for BitChute didn't like it all that much. So the view counts actually differed quite a bit. That's what I'm talking about, why I think he's fake, because like, you can't get the algorithm to work in your favor for every single social media, every search engine, every platform, all at the same time. Unless you have like a team of 500 people curating every single thing for each of those platforms and then making separate videos for each of those platforms, because it kind of was, he had separate videos on each platform at the same time going viral, blowing up. And it's like, how can you make that much content, get that much information out so quickly if you're a real person? You're not. You're not. You're just acting. People are editing your stuff together and they're making the stuff like that. So why does he exist? Well, I think it's a social experiment to see like people's reaction. Well, after Jordan Peterson became very popular on certain things, it was more of a get yourself together. They wanted to see what was the most extreme they can do with this, and pretty much Andrew Tate is the result of the most extreme of get your life together and just go. Stop sitting around and work until you have what you want. So Andrew Tate was the most extreme version of that they can think of. So they created a character more for a character that would match that. Like they created like all the things he would say, and they wrote all these scripts for him to actually say. So there might be an actual person, but like the character itself is fake. There's voice actors doing the stuff. There's the person that looks like Andrew Tate that's just sitting there, and he has that look. In all essence, it's not a real person. It's just not real. It's like a movie actor. That's basically what it is. It's like Scarlett Johansson. Yeah, in the movie she's real, but in real life it's just a figment, basically. That's what Andrew Tate is. I noticed that a lot of the things that came down really quickly was like just his message was pretty much the same message over and over again, and like getting yourself together. Then he was talking about how women are certain ways and how he treated women and like all this stuff, and he bashed a lot of stuff. Like he was just like, oh, he talked about the trans community, about being gay, all that stuff he talked about in such a short time, and he like put forward certain messages that was certain kind of traditional, but at the same time they weren't. Like he put the most extreme version of the traditional message forward in a way to resonate with people, and it was an odd message sometimes that he was putting forth, but it was still getting to people. People were still thinking about it. People were still like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. And I think that was what the whole point of the experiment was, to see if people were resonating with what Jordan Peterson said, or people like Jordan Peterson, even like Joe Rogan and people like that. People were resonating with them because they were popular and they were famous and they just had the spotlight at the time, or if they were resonating with them because of what they were actually saying, the things they were actually behind. So he was an experiment to show like a viewpoint that they wanted to see if people actually still felt that way. And it kind of makes sense because of what's going on in the world, like the depression that's looming, like all this stuff because of COVID, the war that's going on, and all this that's going on right now. They wanted to see like if people actually still were just blind, we're just gonna be like, yeah, whatever, I'm just gonna not think about it, or if they were actually still thinking about stuff that was going on, or if they were just like using social media just to like numb their minds and not pay attention to anything, and whatever passing fad came up will disappear at the same time. So it was kind of like, that's what they did it for, to gauge people's reaction, to gauge like how intensely they would engage with him and how much of an effect it would have on the population, not just, oh, it's another video, it's a viral video, but it's not having an effect on people's behavior and things like that. But he did have an effect on a lot of people's behavior. People did change, people started doing things, and people started going after things a little bit more. People started questioning stuff they weren't questioning before. They're like, you know what, I don't know why I'm at this job anymore. I can do better. I'm going to go do better. Stuff like that actually started happening. Now, the experiment collected as much information as they needed, or whatever, they just wanted the experiment ended, or whatever, they got what they needed, so they had to finish it. And it makes more sense even when you think about it this way too. Like, he came out of nowhere and got all this popularity, like someone was driving him, it's like they wanted to see what would happen. And then now that they've seen what's gonna happen, now that they've got all the information they want, all of a sudden now he's vilified, and they started vilifying him everywhere. He's the worst person in the world. All this stuff started happening, which was also part of the experiment. They wanted to see what would happen when a person like that, who already started liking people and all this stuff, all of a sudden gets trashed, all of a sudden gets run through the dirt, all of a sudden he's the worst person in the world. Will people actually think he's the worst person in the world, or will they still resonate with him? Will they still feel the way he feels? And I feel that also shows that it was fake and it was just a social experiment, because they were also trying to see what's gonna happen when Trump runs in 2022 if they could just run him through the social media into the ground and dirt, and no one will vote for him and no one will care about what he had to say? Not just Trump, but Ron DeSantis, which is pretty much becoming the same way. If they could just run these people through the dirt on social media, and then no one will care, no one will care about them, no one will want to be anything with them. If you also think about that, it makes a lot of sense that they would create a character like Andrew Tate to make him popular along with certain kind of people, because it's more people that are very outspoken, people that are going to do what they want to do, which is, if you think about it, the kind of people that vote for Trump and Ron DeSantis, people that are not really just going to sit around and do nothing. They're people that are going to be like, yeah, I need to get to work, I need to do this, I need to do that. So like, they're putting forth that kind of persona so they can see what those people's reactions will be to running that kind of person through the dirt on social media, and then run them to the dirt on the news, and then talking all these bad things, and then it makes kind of an odd sense that the FBI raids Trump, and then right after the FBI raids Andrew Tate at the same time. It's like, oh, that kind of seems a little bit coincidental that you raid a person's estate for something that was said online, like not even something that's a crime, something that was just said online, which is kind of weird. Like, you don't even tell us, okay, this was the crime that we're raiding for. It's like, okay, yeah, you're not saying what the crime was because there was no crime. That's actually just what it is. There was no crime. They went to raid both of their estates so they can find something to say, this is why we raided their estate. This was the crime that was committed. It's like, but you didn't have that before you raided the estate. So you didn't raid the estate with an intent to find a criminal act. You raided with the intent to go find something that should be interpreted as a criminal act later on. It's kind of like that whole shoot first, ask questions later kind of deal. I will shoot if I see you coming, and then figure out if you were actually a threat to me. That's kind of what just happened with both situations. But anyway, back mainly to Andrew Tate. Like, after that, with the whole raiding stuff and running through the media, the dirt and all that stuff, the reaction was gauged. And then now the experiment needs to come to a close. So what happened? All of a sudden, it just vanished from the internet. Like, everything was banned on the internet in like a 24-hour period. Not even like Alex Jones level banned, where like people were just like one thing after the next were banned, but you still knew who Alex Jones was. You can still figure out what he was doing because you were still talking online about all the stuff that was going on. No, they just banned everything. All his social media, all his websites, all his businesses got like put on seizures. Everything was banned in a less than a 24-hour period. It's just like snap a finger, everything's off, which is weird, kind of dystopian and kind of screwed up, because having that much power over one person's life kind of seems like that's kind of weird, especially when you haven't proven you committed the crime yet. Like, you're basically putting this person in prison because you're trying to take everything at the same time, which is kind of weird. But then at the same time, Andrew Tate's reaction is not what you would expect from somebody that got all that stuff taken away, which further proves the point that he is kind of a generated person. He's not real, because his reaction was not, oh crap, I'm screwed. His reaction was just like, bring it on, I still got this. Kind of like, well, of course that's what you're gonna say if you're fake in the first place. It doesn't matter if you're banned, it doesn't matter if you get destroyed, it doesn't matter if anything happens to you, because you weren't real in the first place. Anyway, so that's where the conclusions came from. It's a bunch of little stuff that when you look at them all together, it kind of makes more sense as to why. It makes a lot of sense because, first of all, this guy came out of nowhere so fast and just crushed every algorithm on the planet, which seems impossible. It's just weird. Then, like, all the stuff he said was to rile everybody up. Then all of a sudden, with all these people behind him, with all these people listening to him, they started running him through the mud to see what everyone's reaction would be. Then they did everything possible running him through the mud, and then finally they just like shut him down, like completely removed him from the internet for him like producing stuff. And it doesn't seem like that's possible if a person is real. Like, just vanishing somebody from the internet just seems weird. And then finally just vanishing somebody from the internet altogether. It's just a little bit odd. A lot of these things come together a little bit too coincidental coincidental and in tune too perfectly for them to be a real person, for this to be actually really happening. Or it's more like, yeah, this would be real if this person was real. This is a scenario that will happen. This is an experiment we need to conduct so that we can see how to deal with people like this in real life. And I'm sure in a couple months, no one will know who Andrew Tate was, because he'll just stop. All the information, all coming from him, will just disappear, because he's not a real person. He's just an actor. He's just a character that was created. The Andrew Tate character created to see what's going to happen when this kind of person hits the world. Because people like that are about to start hitting the world left and right. Starting with some of the politicians that are currently running for office. It's gonna be crazy. So that's it for now. The world's gonna be crazy very soon. Subscribe, like, share this video. I'll see you guys really soon, and don't forget, Andrew Tate is fake.